This video is partially made possible by Gigabyte. Hey everyone, welcome back to another video review. Today we're gonna have a look at the Fractal Design Core 3000 case. When I saw this case, I immediately thought Antec 300. It does quite look like one of those, but I can assure you that this case is much better for basically the same price. This is a mid-sized tower case. It is made out of steel and plastic parts, and it weighs 7.1 kilograms. Alright, let's have a more detailed look at this case by starting off with the front panel, which is basically all mesh, which gives this a very sleek look. And on top there are two 5¼ drive bays. Underneath that is all ventilation, that's all mesh with fans behind it. You can take off the front panel really easy just by pulling on the bottom here, so like that, and it comes off. And now you can see that you have access to the fans, which actually they install one, which is a 140mm intake fan. And underneath that you can install an optional 120mm fan. You can also see that there's actually a dust filter here behind the fans, but you cannot take that out unfortunately, but you can vacuum it by vacuuming from the other side here, from the front actually. You can also take out the drive bay covers here, like just pushing aside here. And then you can see that there's also a dust filter in each of these drive bay covers. Taking this fan out is, by the way, really easy, just by doing this. And normally it should come out without a problem. And there we go, that's the fan. And now we have access to the front panel, which is just off of the case entirely. Now, as I said before, you can install a 140mm here and a 120mm here, but you cannot install two 120mm or two 140mm fans. They don't give you that option, so that's kind of weird, but yeah, that's the case here, and that's what you're gonna have to live with. On the left side panel, they allow you to install a 120 or 140mm fan, unfortunately not with a dust filter though, and the right side panel has been left plain. On top of the case you can find the audio and microphone jack, a hard drive activity LED, a reset button, a power button with a power LED in it, and here you can find 4 USB 2 ports. And behind that there are 2 fan spots, and in both of these you can install either a 120mm or 140mm fan. And note that in the spot right here there is already a fan installed, and that is a 140mm exhaust fan. Here at the rear of the case we can find 2 holes for water cooling tubes to go through, the spot for the motherboard's I/O shield, the 120mm exhaust fan which they include, underneath that 7 expansion slots with white expansion slot covers, and a spot for your power supply. Then on the very bottom of the case we have 4 feet with rubber on them, a dust filter for your power supply's intake fan, it's also washable by the way, and there's a spot for an optional 120mm fan, and I would recommend to install a fan there, if you do, as an intake fan. Then having a look at the inside of the case, you can see the white and black theme that Fractal Design has used many times before in their cases, and which also looks really nice. The motherboard tray supports mini ITX, micro ATX and standard ATX motherboards. There's a big cutout for the CPU cooler's retention plate there, some cable management holes, and many punch outs to attach cables to. In the rear we can again see the included 120mm exhaust fan, the 7 expansion slots, which have thumb screws by the way, and that's really nice. And then here is the spot for the power supply, and there are 2 rubber rests for the power supply to rest on, and here is the spot for the optional 120mm fan. In the top of the case we can again see the included 140mm exhaust fan, the spot for the other optional 120 or 140mm fan. Then moving over to the front we can see 2 bays, and these are 2 5¼ drive bays, and underneath that there are 2 hard drive cages for a total of 6 hard drives. And note that in each of these hard drive brackets you can install also 2.5-inch devices, so let's say an SSD for example. Installing a hard drive in one of these brackets is by the way very easy. You just take your hard drive, you align the holes here, and when putting them on top of each other you use the included screws to screw these down, and then you just slide the hard drive bracket with the hard drive back in place. Now there is one thing about these hard drive cages which I haven't really covered yet, and that is at the top hard drive cage is removable. And to do that, you just remove the thumb screws which hold it in place. So you screw those out, and then you can pull it out, just like that. And not only does this allow you to install longer graphics cards, but it also allows you to install it the other way around, well, let's say 90 degrees in the other direction. So what this then does is it allows the fan in the front to blow more air over your hard drives which you install in this hard drive cage, so there is better airflow and they will be better cooled. The only negative thing about doing this is that the cable management will be a bit more of a mess and you won't be able to install really long graphics cards. Now this is the other side of the motherboard tray, and you can see the cutout here, you can see the cable management holes here, which aren't really big, so that's maybe gonna be a problem. Yeah, you can see the cables here of the front I/O and of the front fan, and all the punch outs. And now, besides all of these specifications, I have to point out a few details which Fractal Design has looked at, and that is that all the cables are black, as well as the cables of the fans, which are sleeved in, well, black sleeving, and the sleeving is actually of really high quality. Another detail is that the edges where your cables could actually get cut are all rounded like that, and that is really safe, and it's also safe when building your own PC in it. You won't cut yourself on those edges. And now, before we get over to the build, I have to show you a few more things which Fractal Design includes with this case, and that is this 5 1/4 to 3.5 inch drive bay adapter, and this 5 1/4 to 3.5 inch drive bay cover, which mostly goes in front of this. Then, by the way, there's also a dust filter in here. Then there's the included screws, a few zip ties, and a fan controller. And yeah, this is a fan controller which goes in the back of your case. And for that they include the power cable, which is Molex, and another cable. And this cable allows you to install up to 3 fans on the fan controller. Now over to the build, which I have finished in about 2 hours. And what can I say about this? Well, I really enjoyed building my computer in this case. There were no problems, the build quality is good, so I hadn't any problems with screws or holes that didn't fit or whatnot. Yeah, you have cable management in this case, you have holes, but they're very small actually. Also, this is a reason why I routed the 24-pin cable not through the hole in the bottom, but I actually let it go through the hole here. But you don't really see that because the cable sleeving of this power supply's 24-pin cable is black. And also, there's no hole on top here for the CPU power cable, so I had to route that one behind my graphics card and then over there. The graphics card almost didn't fit in. Now, what I did was I took out the hard drive cage first, then I installed the graphics card, and then I put the hard drive cage back in, just to make sure that it didn't damage anything. This is probably the maximum graphics card length. Now that's it for the graphics card length, but then you have the CPU cooler's height here. The heat pipes almost hit my side panel, but it just fits in. So what I can say about the size of this case is that they really made it minimal, so that you can install everything which you want for a good gamer system. But you have to make sure that you don't install, well, you're not going to install cable water cooling in here, so I don't really get why there's water cooling holes here anyway. Perhaps you can install 240mm radiator on top or whatnot, and then route cables, well, I almost said cables, sorry. Route the water cooling tubes through here and then to your CPU block or something. But yeah, it's a really small case, so you have to think about that when choosing this. But yeah, for cable management it's actually better than I thought. The build quality is very good, and there's no problem installing anything. But let's have a look at the other side now. Alright, first off, what I thought was, when I finished putting the cables away, tucking them all to the back here, I thought that I wasn't able to put the side panel on again, but I was wrong and I was actually able to. So yeah, you have about a centimeter of space here, but I managed to route the cables correctly, so that worked out fine. What can I say here? Yeah, you see the cooler retention plate here, so the hole is big enough. Yeah, the punch outs, you have lots of them, so that's really useful. I didn't use many zip ties, but I was still able to route the cables very decently. I routed the front panel cables here. like that, so you don't really see them. And there's lots of space between the hard drives to install the power cables for the hard drives, and yeah, that's basically it for this. Alright, for those of you who are comparing this case with the Antec 300, please stop, because this case is much better for basically the same price. Now you have a sleek design on this case, you have good airflow, better than the R3 in my opinion, because you also have more fans and bigger fans, but yeah, everything in general regarding airflow is better. Then you have good build quality, which is something which we can expect from Fractal Design anyway, but I'm saying it anyway. Then you have the 4 USB ports on the top. Unfortunately no USB 3 though, but that is the decision Fractal Design has made to make sure that this case doesn't cost too much, because some of you guys can't really pay cases which are more than $100 or €100. Then you have dust filters in the front and the one for the power supply, which is really useful and nice, and that actually keeps your case cleaner inside. And then you also have that little fan controller which they include, and that's a nice accessory to have. But then a few negative things are that there's no side panel dust filter and no dust filter for the bottom. Yeah, I already said that there's no USB 3, but that's for the price. And then that this case is perhaps a bit small, but if comparing this to the Antec 300 again, that case is also small. And yeah, this case would still be better because you have better cable management options here. You have the holes, which aren't big though, but you're still able to route all the cables throughout your case like you should for a normal computer setup. But yeah, what else can I say about this case? It's probably that this deserves our awesome award. So thanks for watching this video review, I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to see a full list of pros and cons, you can press the links in the description box. I'll put them somewhere there. And yeah, thanks to Fractal Design for sponsoring us, and I'll see you guys in the next video.